Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Mabokang Mokotjo. I work for the Department of Arts and Culture, Lesotho. And until 6 months ago, I was a cultural heritage officer at Sehlabathebe National Park, and hence the paper. So this paper was actually a product of cultural heritage officer frustrated. So when I arrived at Sehlabathebe in September 2022, I happened to actually be part of the people who were given a tour by our tour guide ranger. And when we arrived at the rock art site, and there was nothing to actually say, just this is our rock art site. Every rock art site we visited, nothing was said about the rock art. Then from there, I told myself, okay, fine, Mabokang, you have to find why this is not happening, because I was told that the rangers were actually trained. So I asked, they said, the only tour guide that we have is for the environmental center. So none of the interpretation, nothing about the interpretation of the Sehlabathebe rock art, no historical background for the rock art site. And then I went out of my way, because it was my job, and started talking to the surrounding communities, and found that there's also no relationship between the community and the rock art site within the park, and even in the buffer zone. So hence the paper. And this is just a layman's work who was actually trying to fill the gap that I saw in my work. So I remembered the presentations that were presented during the COSMO-ART at the Irongo. And I told myself, if there's no one who's going to talk to me about the owners of this exquisite rock art within the park, then I've heard that the art itself can talk to me, and the rock art site themselves also can say something to me. So that's why. So my topic is the visual clues to clan identity, a rock art-based investigation of social structures in Sehlabathebe. So my paper studies the rock art of Sehlabathebe National Park, just to understand the social structures that lived within the Sehlabathebe. The analysis of these rock art sites, I did the styles, the symbols, and the spatial distribution, of which they all refilled the three distinct artistic traditionals. Actually, they refilled two traditional distinct groups. And the third one was actually the central zone, which pointed the shared aggregation and interaction site. So this research provides a new socially grounded narrative for a landscape where the Zan voice was tragically erased. This will be the topic that we will be discussing later. So where is Sehlabathebe actually? So Sehlabathebe is, like I said, is in Lesotho, in the 10th district, Achasnek. It is adjacent to the Ugahlamba Drakensberg World Heritage Site of South Africa. So it was established in 1970 as a wildlife sanctuary and a national park under the terms of the Game Preservation Proclamation of 1952, number 33, and was later selected as a development area in 2001 under the Land Act of 1979. So it was enlisted in the tentative listing for UNESCO in 2008, and in 2013 was actually nominated as an extension to Drakensberg Park World Heritage Site in South Africa. They both assumed the name the Maloti-Drakensberg Park World Heritage Site. So Sehlabathebe was actually nominated under 4 nomination criteria, and since that I'm going to be talking about the rock art, I only mentioned 2 of them. It was nominated under criterion 1, of which it is said that the rock art of the Maloti-Drakensberg Park, including the Drakensberg, is the largest and most concentrated group of rock art paintings in Africa south of the Sahara, and is outstanding both quality and diversity of subject. The criteria 3 says the San people who lived in the mountainous Maloti-Drakensberg area for more than 4 millennia, leaving behind them a corpus of outstanding rock art, providing a unique testimony which throws much light on their way of life and their beliefs. So if the communities surrounding the park do not have the relationship with the rock art, what happened? Because the rock art site, the number of rock art sites that we will be talking about and the rock art that we'll be talking about says otherwise. So we say the San are the earliest inhabitants of Southern Africa, and they left the legacy, spent thousands of years in Lesotho's rock art. And I must say, the rock art in Sehlabathebe is not only the concentrated or the beautiful rock art that we find in Lesotho, but it goes across the whole country. So, well, I did talk to some of the communities. I found that the San actually had a complex relationship between the Bantu and the other people who actually came across with them in Lesotho. But it was said after the establishment of the Basotho nation by King Moshoeshoe I, the San and Basotho had a very good relationship, because it is said that the Moshoeshoe I actually married a San wife. Unfortunately, Moshoeshoe's sons, with the influence or maybe the pressure that was brought by the colonialism, the first governor of the British government, which was established in Lesotho by then, actually ordered the extinction of the San. And the one of Moshoeshoe's son, Chief Jonathan, also followed suit. So the San were left with few options. They ran, some were actually killed, but some, with the alliances of the likes of Chief Morosi and Chief of the Daung, were incorporated into those groups and were given different names to actually hide their existence. They were hired as the headers and taken to the mountains to look after their friends as animals. So now that's And I'm told that there are some villages along the Sohonghong that we still have the San descendants who actually know that they are descendants, but most of the San descendants in the country do not actually know that they are actually San descendants, and they do not know. But this research also taught me that some of my informants just told me, you know, Mabokang, you just have to look at people, and then even if they don't know that they are the San descendants, but you look at them, you will know that they are San descendants, because in Lesotho we have lots and lots of San descendants which do not know, and we always refer to the San as the other. Hence, we already have, or we are, the San descendants. So to actually answer or see if I could actually do this, these questions I asked myself: can the stylistic variations actually and motifs indicate distinct clan identities? And then when I read Ellen Becker, I said yes, because in Ellen Becker indicated that during his time, he made the Basotho actually lived with the sun, and he talked about 3 clans, distinct clans, the Makolong, the Mapeshwane, and the Makabanga, of which were distinguished by their different attires. And she says that the Makabanga actually wore nothing. So they know that when they meet the son wearing a certain attire, this is the Kabanga, this is the Kolom. So the second question is, what patterns of interaction are visible in the art record? That one I will be discussing later. And what do these clues suggest about the San social organization and territory? So to help or to build my argument, because the study is meant to actually strengthen the interpretation of rock art within the Sehlabathebe National Park, I didn't have to go far. I just looked at the S&P Cultural Heritage Management, who was actually compiled by St. Challis. And in the Cultural Heritage Management, he has outlined very well the spatial distribution of the rock art site within the park. And he has also indicated the ones which could be visited or maybe visited, and the ones who we shouldn't even think about bringing the tourists. So the data set that I have said is based on the Cultural Heritage Management Plan. Also, what actually drove me to think that I could actually go through and succeed in this plan, these are the major papers that actually talked about what I wanted to do and gave more clarity and direction to what I wanted to do. That is Ellen Becker, and he talked about the early and social classes, historical persecution and of the San, and Westner by talking about the material culture as an identity marker, and Lewis, Williams, and Dawson about the semantic model, and Solomon, social variation in motifs, and of course, Dr. Ntropu, talking about the motif clustering and inland symbolism. And then, of course, the Cultural Heritage Management Plan. And it had all those groups, and the groups that I have chosen are due to the classification that SAM has done in the Cultural Management Plan. So I did my data set basing myself on the motif analysis, the stylistic analysis, and the spatial analysis. So in the stylistic analysis, I looked at the line quality, detail, and the color. The motif analysis, I did the diagnostic symbols like the UN shape filling and the spatial distribution. I classified the art into categories. I grouped them into group A, group B, and group C. And like I indicated in the previous table, I looked at the color, the motif, and the recurrence of the motifs, and the spatial distribution, the distance between the rock art site and the topographical, geographical, where I could say that they actually match. So this is the spatial distribution map depicting the three identified groups, and still from the CHMP, the cultural management plan, and this is the focus, the groups that I have picked. If you see, I know the first picture from from your right, it is not that much visible, but there's a fine line, big inland there, and some other motifs. In the middle is the central part, and which is shamanism, and the other part is the group B, which has it doesn't have the fine line, it's just the so I classified the groups, and the first group, Group A, is classified in purple, Group B in green, and Group C in orange. And those are the tables that I used for clarity to actually help myself to know which one and where to classify them. So in conclusion, I said the Sehlabathebe Rock Art is a map of a social world that speaks to itself. We can now move beyond the generic Sen art narrative, but we can speak to the Northern U-shaped clan when we talk to the visitors, and the Southern Line clan and their central gathering clan. And I must say, highlight that why the central gathering place, I thought it was the central place. It's because in this part, I found both the similar motifs I found in Group A and in Group B. They were present, and also there was to indicate that it was actually a social gathering. It had a graveyard, which symbolizes that actually both clans actually met there and celebrated either marriages or death. My recommendations are for the management and for the research purposes. For the heritage management, we will have to develop a new interpretative signage and guided tour based on these social groups, train rangers and local guides in this new narrative. We use generalized GIS maps, of which I used to actually measure the spatial distribution. And for the future research, because this was mainly for to give the Sehlabathebe National Park visitors and awesome actual experience, just to know who actually was there. So to continue to document oral histories linked to this social geography. And I would also love to actually thank, there are people who actually helped me into putting this together, because I was a dreamer, and people who actually helped me didn't even know what I was doing. They helped me. I want to do this. They were there, and some of them actually, and I want to admit Dr. Ndlovu, actually, when I talked to him, he actually gave me his paper, because I didn't know where to go. I needed direction, but he just gave me the paper and then I disappeared. He has just saw me when I came to the room. So thank you very much.
How many am I saying? Just one. I want to be strategic in my movements. I start with ladies, eh?
I want to thank you. I want to thank you for your bravery and courage to go against the general flow of everyone. And I am in agreement with what you're doing. And I don't know if we're right or not, but I'm coming up with the same answers. And I just want to say to you, is this your plan for the future to continue on further sites, or what is your next plan?
My next plan is actually to continue on doing this and actually seeking assistance, because I just want to do, since that Sehlabathebe is a World Heritage Site, so whatever that I do should actually be well researched and documented. So because since that is the basis of the interpretation work that the park has done, it needs to be actually done correctly. Thank you.
Sam, I just want to acknowledge your hand. Yeah, I will give you an opportunity, but not now. I'll let you know.
Thank you, Ma. My comment is that I will suggest that you should also, as you proceed with your intentions at the moment and your vision and dreams, which you called dreams, that you should probably also prepare for a safe exit plan, whereby you don't come to a point where after investing a lot of time, you know, you might end up in future meet a lot of overwhelming response, which may not be necessarily encouraging. So the reason why I'm talking about a safe exit plan is such that even as you think about some of those questions you have talked about, which I have no opinion on, the clan, whatever, and all that, there is a lot that as you interact with the rock art, you can also become very useful for by other means beyond just the questions that you are asking. And those might end up becoming your safe exit plan later, if and when you get convinced by the overwhelming response that might convince you that there might be methodological issues with your approach. I hope I am audible, but can I just say it in one of the South African languages? That now going so se dirang, go na le batho ba ntsi ba ba kgona gore ba hele ba re wena o bua dio di selela. Yaanong go tlohela le gore go go neela go kgobapo. Mme go ba bua nnete ka ntlha gore kana ntho ena ya archaeology le e nna le banga yone. Yaanong ba se ba dirile tshwetso ya gore go iwa kae ga go iwe kae. Yaanong ga go ntse jalo e re ntse o tsweletse o dira dio tse kganya go di-clan what bo itse gore o ka nna wa kgobega marapo bo hela o phuaganya sengwe le sengwe mme tota gongwe go na le di-other gems within your research tse le di leng botlhokwa beyond hela theory eo e setse morago. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
NgesiZulu sithi isiZulu asitolika angazi noma nazo nabatswala bayakusho yini lokho. Let me give Sam an opportunity, and that is very intentional because of what you were saying, Philip. I know he was linguistically challenged. He didn't understand what you concluded with. Sam, you've got the floor.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ndlovu. Hope everyone can hear me okay.
Yeah, you're audible.
Sure. So, thank you, Mabokang Mokotjo.
Some Challis.
So thanks very much for mentioning the CHMP, the Health Management Plan. I don't know if you mentioned the survey we did in 2015. So we surveyed the whole area, took us the whole of 2015. That's where we get that number of 95 sites and all that. But I wondered if you had seen the interpretation center at the new lodge.
Yes, sir, I have seen that.
Okay, so my question was, I don't know if you can see on the screen there, my picture is there with Ndadekhethabile Mokhatjane, the late Khethabile, captain of Sehlabathebe. Because we surveyed the area with all of those guys. So that was my team. They were locals, local Basotho. So that was a nice thing. But I was wondering why you were focusing on clan identities. Just because the Barwa, as we know them, the ones that we know, they named themselves according to the areas they come from. So the Tum of the Karoo, they called themselves grass bushmen, the flat bushmen, the mountain bushmen, not necessarily according to clan names like the Sintu speaking African farmers did. And then, of course, we got the problem that some of these paintings are 4,000 years old. And then we have the historical records from which we get the more recent group names, which don't necessarily project back in time. Anyway, I'm looking forward to chatting with you. I'm writing you an email now.
And I am not disappointed because I expected that. Because when you use someone's work, you would want him to actually get back to you and give you pointers, especially you in the distance, because like you said, you did a whole lot of survey at Sehlabathebe. And to answer your question, why the clans? I think my view of point was apart from the interpretation which is in the Enviro Center, there was nothing more. When you reach the EO1 rock art site, which is adjacent to a road, now that I'm talking to you, you take people there, and then there is nothing said about that site. So I just wanted us, because frequently I found myself having to actually act as a tour guide, even though I'm not a tour guide. So when I arrived there, I must admit, I'm not a rock art specialist. So I wanted to educate myself, because it's my duty to do that as a cultural heritage site officer, so that I can also impart the skills that I will have learned during the research to other tour guides and the park rangers, so that when they reach in every rock art that the CHMP says is actually allowed to take people there, people have to say something, have something to say, like I'm saying. The northern part, the southern part, the U-shaped rock art, and then the southern part, the fine line part. So when we reach to the ones which are in the central, we know that we have this distinction, we have these types, and we are able to actually differentiate the motifs depicted thus, just to have something to say to people.
Okay, I've got two more hands and then we move forth to the next and the last speaker for the day.
You want to speak before me? Okay, thank you very much for your presentation. I think it's very useful. I think it's brave. It's brave because you are going into rock art interpretation. But here is the thing, guys. People don't eat interpretations. If you want to sell a site, you can have 5, 6 narratives about the site and present this to tourists. And then our main business here, I think, is to focus on how these interpretations, how these narratives, how these stories can help us preserve and manage rock art sites. If you want to talk about ethnicities and identities, you can go back to your area, ask people what they think about these sites. That on itself is already an ethnicity, an identity and perception study. So you can do so many things without necessarily putting yourself at the corner. The other stuff has been said, it's better be left in Setswana. But my quick comment is, please, maybe another useful approach is to go back to that management plan and say, how can we use that management plan to address some of the issues and themes that we are having in this workshop here on rock art management and preservation. Yeah, that's my comment.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. I'm happy that I'm here and I heard your presentation. As the National University of Lesotho alumni from the historical department in the archaeology, heritage and cultural studies, I'm just wondering if it would be possible to maybe collaborate with the department. And like you talked about training the guides, we have the problem with experience. So I'm thinking such projects could be the best opportunities for the undergraduates, especially the 4 years. It becomes so hard for us to even apply to other universities because now we do not have relevant experience. So this is such a huge and beautiful project, which I feel like we can, like students coming would benefit from that. So if it's possible for you, please consider that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As the Department of Arts and Culture, we are mandated to preserve each and every cultural heritage site in Lesotho, Sehlabathebe included. National University of Lesotho is one of our co-partners. We have been negotiating with them in so many different times that we have our cultural heritage sites which are under-researched. Can you just come up with something so that we can have all the narratives about all our heritage, Sehlabathebe included? So we have talked to them. We are still expecting them to come. Well, I was just when in 2022, they came in a quantum saying that they are going to explore the place. We gave them the place to sleep, gave them the tour and waited for them to come up and to bring their students, and we are still waiting.